when you're dealing with analytics, you're dealing with 20 million channels. And then you have to like abide by YouTube's API process, which is like you can't, you can only show like 18 months of data. So beyond that, like, having a provision in different places so that it is, it is stored but not accessible, right? And then at some point it's deleted.
All right, we're live. I got Ajoy Thomas here, CEO of VideoAmigo. You're also a part of TouchStorm as well, which is another, I think, sister company to VideoAmigo. Just quick stats for you guys. So you analyze 26 million YouTube channels and 2.2 billion videos on a daily basis. So I kind of want to know what your AWS bill looks like, but you guys were OGs in the influencer and like the creator space, early days of YouTube. So let's just dive right in, Ajoy. Like what are you guys doing? Tell me the story.
Yeah, but before we dive in, I have to tell you, we are both fans of MFM, and I gotta congratulate you. You nailed something that they did not. You have a great podcast name.
Thanks, man.
Right. So like 200 episodes later, you don't have to worry about rebranding like what My First Million is trying to do, right? Like,
yeah. So a guy, Spence, on our team came up with the name because he's known for the snarkiest comments in our Slack channel. So when I was coming up with this podcast and trying to come up with a name for it, I went to Spence. I was like, all right, you got the snarkiest, craziest ideas. So just what is a ridiculous podcast name? And he just on Slack, like within 2 seconds, writes back cash flow.
Right. And tip your hat to the business side of things and the technical side of things. So
exactly. Yeah, that was what I was going for. Exactly.
Yeah, it's the perfect name. Like with MFM, I almost have to like apologize every time I share the episodes. Like, excuse the name. It's kind of cringe, I know, but yeah, you nailed it. You nailed the branding side of things. So congrats there. Yeah.
Thanks, awesome. Man. Thanks. All right, let's dive into your story. Tell me what.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Yes. So I joined TouchStorm 15 years ago, and we are a YouTube agency. So like you mentioned, there's two companies. There is the agency side of the business, and then there is VideoAmigo, which is the SaaS and the platform side of the business. So I am the CEO of VideoAmigo, and I work as a CTO on TouchStorm, like on a daily operations and things of that nature. So yeah, what we do is we analyze, like you mentioned, over 2 billion videos. So analytics for them. So for video, it's like the number of likes, the number of views, keeping track of that, and over 22 million channels. So that's like the number of subscribers that are there for that channel. Is it growing and things of that nature? So really what VideoAmigo does is like three things. So you can use the platform in order to understand your own YouTube analytics, So it's like YouTube Studio on steroids. So you can, YouTube Studio, you can go there and then figure out the number of subscribers, who your demographics are, like, are you growing? What is the watch time? All those things. But on VideoAmigo, it also tells you what is the greatest potential for your channel? Where are the areas of improvement? What is the thing that you should be paying attention to and trying to increase that, right? So that's number one. The second thing is competitive data. So because we have all these channels and the public data, you can look at your competitors and look at what did they do last week? Did they grow their subscriber base? What videos are they coming up with? What's the length of that video? Things of that nature. So all that data is available there as well. And then the third thing is benchmarking. So one of our USP is not just taking in all this data, but we have a taxonomy. We have this thing called themes, conversation, topics, and categories. So if you're a podcaster, like, based in Philadelphia, you get like that. It's a hierarchy of that taxonomy. It's a nested taxonomy. So you know exactly where you stack up against other people. And that helps with benchmarking. So people who are in research and data analytics side of things, they want to know, oh, I am in the 25th percentile when it comes to podcasting and in the tech side of things. So it really is a platform for brands to figure out who are the right influencers they should be targeting, or figuring out where they stand, what their strategy should be, what are they missing out, both looking back and looking forward, what are the trends. So those are the three main core of VideoAmigo and what we do. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I'm thinking about it like in terms of SEO tools, like a SEMrush or a Ahrefs or something, kind of like you guys are just out there just beating YouTube up with bots all day, trying to like suck in everything you can find and then
Yeah,
present that back
yeah,
to users.
exactly. Yes. So when we started out 15 years ago, there was no such thing as video SEO, you know? And so when we started out, we had our own channel, and that was called Houdini, which was how to do anything. And that this was like, you know, we competed against like Howcasts of the world. And so what that did was there was no user generated content, and it was videos on by experts, you know, so how to tie a tie, to how to bake a cake, you know, things of that nature. So when we built we had about 1,000 videos there, we learned quite a bit about YouTube, and then figured out, man, we should really be pivoting towards YouTube side of things. So we put the whole library to YouTube, and kind of nailed that SEO side of things for video. And then learnings from there, we imported that to brands, you know. So when brands would come in and ask like, hey, we want to do something on YouTube, like, you know, we know it's not TV, so it's not like a 30-second ad, like long form content. What are the videos we should come up with? So for example, like Pantene would come to us. It's like, how about we come up with how to get curly hair? Like we do a video on that. How about that? And then we would go back and do like what is now common keyword research, and figure out the white space, and figure out what are people searching for which there is no video, right? And then we are like, yes, it is that topic, but it's how to get curly hair like Taylor Swift, because that's what people are searching for, but there is no video for it. And so now you have this video content that's like pre-wired for success, right? Because when you put it on Google, how to get curly hair like Taylor Swift, the video gets promoted as well. And this was back when, you know, Google had just acquired YouTube, and we were going through this process of just learning how the algorithms work. And from there, Pantene is right there, right? Like, and we walk that line between editorial and advertorial, so that it's not like Pantene in your face. It's like, let me teach you how to get curly hair like Taylor Swift. And somewhere in the middle, it's time to shampoo the hair. And then there you go, like Pantene is there, you know, you kind of shampooing it. And in the end, you walk away with like, man, I really learned how to do that. And yeah, I should be using Pantene video, you know, shampoo, right? Like it's subtle. And so it's not even like product placement. It's like the whole thing is carefully orchestrated, right? And so we took that whole discipline and kind of do this for brands, and turned that into like a YouTube agency. And when you are doing like a YouTube agency, anyone can say, oh yeah, we too do YouTube, right? Like, so how are you going to differentiate yourself? So one of the things that we say at Touchstorm is like, every decision is really backed by data. And so if that is the case, you need data. So that's why VideoAmigo was born. We were like, okay, we got to analyze all the video, as much videos as we can humanly possible. And you have to mine it, right? Because YouTube doesn't give you all the channels. You have to discover channels on your own and then figure out how to get the analytics for it. So it is a long, arduous process, but we did it. And it has helped quite a bit on the agency side as well, because every advice that we give is backed by data. You know, it's like, you know, at a category level, this is what we are seeing, and this is what you should be doing, you know, whatever the problems are on the agency side. And the other thing is like the plan is like, people come to the VideoAmigo side, use the platform if they have an in-house agency, if they have in-house people dealing with YouTube. And if it gets too much, they can always use Touchstorm, you know. So we have a saying like, come for the tools, stay for the channel management, you know. Come for the channel management, stay for the strategy. So even the brands that work with us, it's not really about uploading videos and things of that. They want that strategic advice, like, you know, what is the next thing we should be doing? What's the next trend that's there? What makes sense for us? And those are the things, if you're truly like a data nerd, you have those insights and you can kind of, you know, give that to the brands. Yeah.
Cool. There's a couple threads I want to go down there, but first I'm curious, is YouTube like bot friendly, or do you have to do like proxies and IP rotations and stuff like that? Or are they just like, is it kind of how websites are with Google bot and they just say, come crawl it, we want you to crawl it kind of thing?
Yeah, great question. It's not bot like, so we are like YouTube partners. So you have to adhere to their API. So all the data that we get, it's straight from the API.
Oh, so you're actually integrating through an API to YouTube.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
Exactly, right. Like, so then comes the question of like, how do you discover that a channel, like, how do you know that this channel even exists? And for that, you have to like, get the comments and then figure out, there's like a whole process in figuring out the channel. But once you give a channel key as an input, the output would be like whatever your request
So yeah,
is.
and architecturally, you have to like store all that data. Like you have like an index of channels, and then that like what channels are. All right, that's interesting.
Yeah, and from there, like who else
problem.
subscribed to this channel, and from there, kind of like go out from there. So yeah, every
Cool.
day the database keeps growing. Like today it's 25 million channel, and then like tomorrow it's 2.2, and then kind of keeps going from there. Yeah.
You use AWS for your cloud services. What's your AWS bill?
It is crazy. As a matter of fact, we are right now in the process of optimizing it so that we can bring it down. Right now, it's about 40K a month. It's not like we have like optimized it as much as possible.
That's less than I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, it was going to be like something insane, right? Like, but see, that's the thing, right? Like when you're dealing with analytics, you're dealing with 20 million channels, and then you have to like abide by YouTube's API process, which is like you can't, you can only show like 18 months of data. So beyond that, like, having a provision in different places so that it is it is stored but not accessible, right? And then at some point it's deleted.
You can't show more than 18 months of data in your platform. That's a YouTube policy.
Yeah, like the open API policy is it's 18 months.
But in your platform though, like you're like downloading the data and indexing it in your own database. Can you show more than that? Or they say like, no, you're not allowed to show more than 18, even though you got it and you can like archive it?
Yes.
Store it.
So yes, you can synthesize it. And as long as you have clients, like, there's like provisions for that, like what you can do, cannot do from a privacy standpoint, what you can and cannot do. So publicly what you are allowed to show. And then for certain use cases, we have like, because we are grandfathered into the API, like there are certain policies that are like imparted to us where, we are allowed to show or synthesize the data so that you can say for this category, this is the trend line, so that there is no issues with privacy and things of that nature.
I want to take a quick break from the episode and say, if you're enjoying this content, the best way you can say thank you is to subscribe. So if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if you're on one of the podcast platforms, hit the subscribe button there as well. And also share it out to your friends and colleagues. If you find this content useful and you think other people will enjoy it as well, please send it out. And back to the episode. All right, let's like cross over brain hemispheres now. So we'll get out of the tech talk. And so you guys are doing all this like channel management and content creation and like creative stuff for brands. Have you ever done any channels or like done any of your own content strategies? And like, have you guys ever, maybe created your own brands or anything or?
Yeah, so when we started out, that was Houdini. That was our own brand. It was
like all right. So the how to tie a tie thing, that was yours.
Yeah. So it had like about more than 1,000 videos there. So we learned all the stuff there, and that channel is still up. It has like over 700K subscribers still.
And you don't maintain it anymore. It's just kind of like
we haven't uploaded a new video in a while. So. But that's where we do all the experiments, like from thumbnail analysis to like, so we wouldn't do that on a client channel. Yeah, let's see. Like,
is it just because you're making more money like through the SaaS and through the agency, or why stop doing your Houdini product?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like it was really the focus was like on taking care of the brand channels and like doing the SaaS model, and then using Houdini really for experimentation and then figuring out what works and what doesn't work, as opposed to the core of Houdini, which is like coming up with the next set of how-to videos, But we did learn these are like evergreen videos. and yeah, it still makes money, and so yeah, I think like at some point we just decided not to get in the whole content game, but it has served us quite well there.
I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense. Like how to tie a tie. Like there definitely was probably a couple of years where there was a white space where you could just own that category.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, it's pretty much everything's flooded. Like there's no new like content. There's no white space in content anymore. It's
That's what you would think, right? But that's the beauty of the internet. There is niches within niches, and like, you'd be surprised, right? There's always white space.
all right. So pitch one at me. Like what's one that's like something recently that you discovered and you're like, holy shit, this is still available.
I think like everything under I feel like there is so much unknown there. I see like new things coming up. So anytime like you synthesize large amounts of data and then you're educating someone, there's always like an appetite for that. So right now, be it large language models, like there are people who are coming up on top as experts on that. And that's not just like at the surface level. When you're dealing with videos, you really have to prove it out, right? Like these are the experiments I'm doing. This is what I learned, and every day it keeps on changing, right? What's that Lang chain? That's like another, like, people are curious about it, but
Yeah,
really
and auto
distilling it.
GPT is like the new thing too. And
Exactly, right. Like, so now I'm seeing like kind of, like people say like with AI, it's like kind of like the Wild West, and it's kind of history repeating itself. Within that, there are niches like with Stable Diffusion. There is this one channel that I'm following every day. It's just breaking news and then his take on the news that broke and applying it in creative ways. So he's like a creative person dealing with how does Stable Diffusion and all this AI models going to help him, and the YouTube channel really covers it. And the viewers also know like this is so brand new. There are no experts in here. And so within that, I've seen like niches, like so under AI, under that is creative, under that it's filmmaking, under that, or subsequent to that, it's just image creation based on prompts. What is and if someone is in design school right now, that is a very interesting topic for them. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, right? So new topics that emerges, I see like always this microcosm within that. And the pie keeps growing is what I've learned. Like it never gets concentrated, be it in ASMR, like that was a trend. Like who would have thought, right? And like within that, you can apply that everywhere. Like, does your brand makes a sound? Like I saw something with vacuum cleaners, like there's ASMR vacuum cleaners, right? So anytime you stack these things, like
if you want, we can do like a 5-minute segment where we just get really close to our mics and then we just whisper to each other.
I don't know how an Indian accent is comforting to people, but
oh man, that's so funny. All right, so I was thinking about doing this one where basically like anytime it's the Super Bowl or like the Oscars, I just have a graphic designer and a Facebook ads person on the ready. So as soon as Will Smith slaps somebody or Janet Jackson's boob pops out, like we got T-shirts and mugs already on Facebook instantly,
right.
And it's cranking on ads,
Right. And like brands are doing that, right? Like there is a control center. Like when was that? Like when the Super Bowl, the lights went out, the brands that reacted to it, like I think Oreo did an ad, like Dunkin' in the dark or something like that. And that got like crazy, like, it takes a little bit of right place, right time, and that creative mind kind of thinking about, okay, the lights went out. Like, what can we do? 30 minutes of like just silence, right? And then brands kind of like getting on top of it. And we have seen that with brands as well. Like they have like a social media, just keeping an eye on trends and figuring out when to take the right risks and then jumping on it, So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things we were talking about earlier today was about the different types of brands that influencers and this kind of YouTube strategy is good for versus which ones it's not. So I want to hear about that. I want to hear a little bit about that. There's also like there's a weird YouTube landscape too. There's a lot of like brand content, there's all these like crazy YouTube people like the Whistling Diesel guy or like Mr. Beast, like these ridiculous channels, man. Like some of the stuff people are making.
Yeah.
I think someone just crashed a plane or something on YouTube and got arrested.
Yeah.
They were, you know,
Saw
like
that.
there's just stupid stuff happening on YouTube. So I want to hear like, I think they're just monetizing mostly through the ads,
Yeah.
probably,
Right.
which I assume is probably what you did with your how to tie a tie strategy. I don't know if you like somehow affiliate marketed that, but then also on the brand side, like what brands should be doing this stuff and which ones
Yeah.
shouldn't be doing it.
Or shouldn't be doing it. I think like a good rule of thumb is that if you're a brand where every word that comes out of someone that mentions your brand needs a lawyer or needs like a second like a legal team to kind of look at it, then maybe it's not a good fit, you know. So when you are working with influencers, you have to give them that creative space to do their thing, right? A lot of the times you see like it's just not the right match, right? Like where there is a brand, there is a product, and the influencer is just like round hole square peg kind of a thing. So and also they have to be as authentic as possible, right? Like if they have a if influencers, they have a voice, right? I've seen like Conan O'Brien doing this really well. Like he has this podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, and he does this reads, right? The
That's
ad
a good
read.
name.
Yeah.
That's a good podcast name.
It is, yeah, because that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Like you're expanding your network, we're just having a conversation. Yeah, did a good job. Not my first million. Uh, but um, but yeah, that's like I thought like it was pretty authentic. Like in terms of I saw a read for McDonald's and then it was T-Mobile, you know, the way he would do it with his little comedic thing. I could tell like it might be scripted, but not really. It's like the three of them kind of doing it. But in that particular case, and it might like sometimes kind of veer off as well, right? And maybe that's something that the legal team at McDonald's might not really care for it. But you gotta be okay with that. If you're not okay with that, then you know maybe influencers is not the way to go. You know, and you kind of see that when it doesn't work. Like you know, you can tell it's kind of like a script is kind of handed out to the influencers, and like they're
Yeah.
just trying
It's
to do
also
it.
though like influencers though it's kind of like a way to not have to worry about that, right? Because if you if you hand off the creativity off to somebody else, they're not like directly your brand. So if they
Exactly.
I guess they could offend people and then that's you know that's kind of the risk you have like having your brand associated with something offensive. But
Yeah. Yeah. And as a brand, you have to like look at a few things, right? Like it used to be that, well, this particular influencer has this audience, let's just transact and then that's it. Well, brands do need to pay attention to a few things. Like one is, can this person be a brand ambassador, you know, as opposed to this one-time thing? Like how do we have a relationship with them? One of our clients, Peak Auto, is doing a really good job with that when it comes to cars, just dealing with car influencers and just giving them the creative voice. And also, it's a long-term play, right? Like where you are trying to figure that out. And when you're trying to figure that out, you also have to ask a few other questions, like, hey, if this is the brand you're going with, you know, that means that you cannot be talking about the competition, right? So it is like safety on both sides. Then like then you are really like the person, like one day you're the Sprint guy, you cannot be the Verizon guy the next day, right? Like
yeah.
so there that is an aspect that you have to kind of look at. And in terms of measurement too, like you know, you have to look at views, right? Like once you have nailed down the demographics and you figure out the audience for an influence is the right reach, then focusing on the views and then figuring out, okay, you know, what is expected out of this campaign? Because usually when it's branded content, it might be less than what they normally do, and then being realistic there. So yeah, there are quite a few things that you can do, and then also benchmarking, right? Like in this category, we know this is the retention there, and that's something that VideoAmigo platform has as well, which is like if you are dealing with a particular category, what is the expectation? What's the lay of the land? What you know, who are the influencers that we should be going after? Usually brands don't want to work with the superstars. Like, there is this quintile, right? Like the first 20% of influencers that has access to 20% of the audience, and then so on and so forth. They want the up and comers, right? Like they are about to take off. So when you have data, you can analyze that. You can like figure out, given the pace of this particular creator, we know where this person is going to be in 6 months, and then you can kind of do that matching. You can be like, this person is in the automotive category. Like Toyota is one of our clients. It's like, these are the influencers that is about to take off, and it makes sense for them to collaborate with Toyota. And then it needs to be the whole thing, right? Like, and then from there, figure out what is the right topic that they should be coming up with, and feeding that back to the influencers. And then that goes back to the whole white space thing, right? Like it's based on data, like what people are looking for. And then, that kind of helps the whole thing. And from there, the actual production of it. And then, seeing how paid kind of helps with organic as well. They are really two sides of the same coin, like utilizing paid to kind of complement the organic views on YouTube. So yeah, it's a whole science there with influencer. And yeah, you're right. Like with people crashing planes, like I can't believe like the guy did that for views. And I think he's gonna go to jail for like 20 years or something, right?
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah. And that's always part of the thing, right? Like when this thing grows, there's always gonna be these kind of situations. Regarding the other guy, like, who would take the cars and crash him and stuff, that's just, I guess, like the brand, right? Like you want to have that.
You're talking about the Whistle and Diesel guy?
Yeah, the Whistle and Diesel guy, right?
He's a goofball, man. He started popping up in my feed like 6 months ago or something. And I saw him like do the Ferrari thing. It's just so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of like, like Sean had that from MFM, had that thing like where he said, it's kind of like WWE, like you are the heel, that's your persona, you've kind of embraced it, and now, there's no going back, so it's like part of just like standing out, and sometimes, YouTube has both end. But as far as brands are concerned, like, a while back, they were concerned about like brand safety and things of that nature. I think like tech has come a long way in identifying which videos are like brand safe in terms of like running ads, it is as good as it gets, because whatever niche you are into, YouTube has like a video for that, or like
you were talking about OGs earlier. So there's actually 2 e-commerce OGs that built their businesses a lot on YouTube here in Philadelphia. One is Revzilla. They're in the motorcycle parts space, and then another one is called Turn 5. They're in the like, auto, like the car aftermarket parts space. So they sell like, superchargers and exhaust systems and stuff like that for like Mustangs and Corvettes. Turn 5 is the same, but for motorcycles, like motorcycle leather gear and like carbon fiber, gas tank parts and stuff. And both of them were like really early to the scene in like the early to mid 2000s, and they basically just put out all these newsletters to all these local people in Philly and said, hey, if you have a motorcycle or a car, like both of them are, Revzilla is like, if you have a motorcycle and you want a free gas tank installation, just bring it in. And then they would have like, mechanics that, kind of like had a personality do the install on camera. And then they would put the videos on every single one of their e-commerce pages. So they get the SEO boost of the YouTube embed. And they also get like the customers can see like, this is exactly how I install this. This is how it fits my bike. This is what it looks like. This is how easy it is to install. And they did that for both of these businesses here in Philly. They're two different companies, but they did that same strategy like in the OG days. And they're both just like mega businesses now.
Mega businesses. Yeah. They really did understand, like, as long as you can bring the customers in, and then if that activity can go much further, then do it, right? Because that's what it is. Like the person came in, we did this free thing, but look at all the eyeballs now that we have, right? Like, kind of
it was smart, man. It was a smart strategy. All right, but changing gears here. So you were talking about Sean and MFM, and you told me you just went to the MFM what was it called? What was the MFM
It was like a live event, right?
live
Podcast.
podcast or something? Yeah.
Right.
What was that? So let's do like just I'll do a quick. So MFM is My First Million. It's a podcast that Ajoy and I are both big fans of, and it was actually like one of the things that inspired me to create this podcast. Actually, there's these two the two hosts of MFM. It's Sean and Sam, and they just like riff off of each other really nicely. They're kind of like goofy and just say stupid stuff and interesting stuff and funny stuff. So it's a good podcast, and they've been blowing up. I mean, they're like getting millions of downloads per month now. And when I first started listening to it, I'd tell people I probably started listening to it somewhere around like in the hundreds of episode count.
Same here. Yeah.
Like 150, 160. And I would
haven't missed an episode since, right?
Yeah, like 2017 or 18 or whatever. Maybe it was
that was much earlier. Like to me, it was during COVID, like around 2020.
Maybe it was like 20. Yeah. Oh wow, it was really that recent? Okay, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it was years ago that I started listening to it, but back then I would tell people about it. They'd be like, "Yeah, I've never heard of it." Now, when I mention it, probably one in three people hasn't heard about it. But obviously the crowd that I'm in is mostly entrepreneurs in the tech industry. So, but they've gotten some reach there in the tech entrepreneur space. So. You just went to the live event. I'd love to hear how it was. What were the quality of the conversations you were having? I saw you sent me a picture with you and Sean together. So you obviously had some chats with Sean. Like, give me the full rundown. What was it like?
Yeah, I thought it was great. And by the way, do you go to like a lot of conferences and stuff? I heard the last podcast you had Tyler, and you're planning on going to LaraCon, right? Like in Tennessee.
Yeah. Taylor Otwell, creator of Laravel, and that was actually 2 episodes ago now.
That was 2 episodes ago.
By the time this airs, that'll be like 4 or 5 episodes ago.
Right.
But that was so I'll be at the Nashville LaraCon this year. It's been virtual for the last like 3 or 4 years, so this is like the first year back in a while. But I do go to some conferences. I was just at Philly Tech Week. They have a thing. My friend is he was actually the first guest on this podcast, Chris Wink. He's the CEO of Technically and puts on a really awesome like Philly Tech Week conference. There was like 1,000 entrepreneurs or something like that there. A lot mostly in the tech space, but before that, I go to some weird conferences sometimes. I was thinking about going to a propane conference. So just like, just like weird stuff. I was looking at.
Yeah, I know that totally makes sense. Like you just kind of sometimes have to get out of the bubble too, right? Go to Farmers Con.
Yeah. Like, years and years ago, like 2015, I was going to this thing called, the last episode was Mike Zani from Predictive Index.
Okay.
So this is in his world. I was going to this conference. I did it 3 years in a row. It was in Honolulu, Dallas, or no, it was in Honolulu, Houston, and then believe it or not, it was in Philly one year. So I went to it when it was here. But it's called SIOP, Society for Industrial Organizational Psychologists.
Gotcha.
So it's basically like fancy HR nerd conference kind of thing. It's like data science meets HR. So I went to that and I met a lot of really cool people, and HR people can party. So it was a good time. Especially
that sounds like a good YouTube channel too. See, like there's always white space, man. Anytime you stack HR and like some weird stuff, there you go. That's a YouTube channel. But yeah, the reason why I ask is because, you clearly go to much more conferences than I do. But I hate going to conferences because it's like you go there and it's like, now what? And also, like the people on stage, I have like spoken in at least like one conference. It's like the people on stage is like, I am here and you are there. And there's like this demarcation, right? Like I'm here to teach and like you're here to learn. And so I think the first observation was that everyone that was there at the event, it was like we're all equals, right? Like, and I think like the best conversations are when you have nothing to sell and the other person has nothing to sell. We are just talking, right? Like there is no like, oh man, I really want this person to like me, or like, no, we're just, what are you up to? You're doing that? I'm up to this. Oh, maybe you should consider this. It's just a conversation, right? Like, so there is no pressure so that was like the main thing. Like when you go there, it's like, we are all here from college students to billionaires, or I don't think they were billionaires there, but really accomplished people there. But Andrew
Wilkinson was there, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, he was. So yeah,
there you go.
Right.
He's probably a billionaire, right?
Probably, like, on paper, right?
Close
So
enough.
close enough, right? So yeah, I think like that was my first impression. Like, we are all here. There is no like hierarchy. Even like people who are on stage, we are all builders and tinkerers. It doesn't matter where you are in the journey. So I thought that was really kind of like a difference between like going to an event like this versus like a conference where there are clearly speakers and like experts and like so there was that. And then yeah, just the other thing is like when you go in there, usually when you go to conferences, you don't know, like the topic, like if HubSpot has a conference, like what it's going to be. It's inbound and like it's about marketing and
Dude, I
stuff like
so wanted to go to that this year, and
that. Uh-huh.
I was in Costa Rica or something, or I was in like I forget where I was, but I was like traveling somewhere, so I had to miss inbound. But I was like this speaker lineup, and it just was like ridiculous. I wanted
It
to go to
was,
that
it
so
was.
bad.
It looked pretty great, yeah. But in this case, I mean, it's different, right? It's like everyone that listens to this thing. So it's like the vibe is a little bit different as well. Like it's around these type of content, right? As opposed to marketing, like which is much more broader. And like HubSpot is like the leader in that. So that was like the second thing I noticed. It's like, wow, we are all kind of, yeah, we all have our lingo, like no small boy stuff and like, whatever it is. And that's the thing that kind of unites this little weird clique, right? Rather than professionals from corporate people coming in. And it was in Austin. So just it wasn't like it was just a 3 hour drive. So yeah, that was like the main thing that I noticed. Like the type of people that came in, they didn't have anything to, or at least the people that I talked to didn't have anything. It was just like, what are you up to? That's super interesting. That's one way of winning, and like that's another way of winning. As
What are
opposed,
some of like the interesting people? What are like some of the interesting businesses you heard from people there? Like just list off a couple of them or something.
one was in M&A, and he was thinking of doing Deal Doula, which came from
Oh
MFM.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Deal
Yeah.
Tula.
And I thought like, dude, you should totally do it because that's something that people need, right? Like an entrepreneur only goes through that.
Say what the Deal Doula is. I remember that from MFM.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that if you have a business and if you're about to sell, you're only going to do that maybe once or twice in your lifetime. And on the other side of the table are these M&A guys. They do this all day, every day, right? So in some ways, they have an advantage, right? Like because that's all they do. And you are really not that prepared to, it's like going to a gunfight with a knife, right? And so a deal doula is like a person who does that and does that personal consultation. It's kind of like a banker, but like really it's like, hey, dude, I know your situation. This is a don't make these 13 mistakes you're about to do, right? Like, and it's like, yeah, it's basically like a banker, but like on a much personal level, like whoever their banker was during their closing, right? Like,
And the comparison, like I think most people probably know what a doula is, but for those who don't, it's for a mother that's about to give birth. She'll
yeah,
have a doula who's like kind of like a spiritual or like some kind of like coach to help the mother through the birthing process. So they
right,
kind of like team up early in the pregnancy, and then their doula is there all on the way, and then the doula is there for the actual like act of giving birth to support the
correct.
mom. So the concept that you said, like, entrepreneurs only do this like a couple times in their lifetime. So it's kind of like, a mother giving
In the
birth only
moms,
does
like
it
they only give birth.
a
Yeah,
couple
right,
times.
right.
Yeah.
Like
So it's like that
breathe
was the,
in, breathe out, right? Like because so many things that can go wrong at that time. And it totally makes sense. There was this one guy who was like contemplating in doing that. It was someone else, I think like in the recap they mentioned it, which was someone who was selling parts to fire department and like anything and everything that you can think of. It was a very weird niche, but
did you talk to
yeah,
that guy?
I did not. So what they did was like they said, how many people here have a business? Raise your hand. And like, how many of them are at 10 million, at 20 million, 30? And they kept going up. And like whoever was remaining in the end is like, okay, what do you do? And it was like the fire guy. Like I sell parts to fire. It was like, there is business everywhere, right? Like, and that's always inspiring to see. Like, that's his journey. Good for him.
I met a guy years and years ago down in Florida. This was like right when I started my journey as an entrepreneur, and this was like one of like the big like inspirations that really got me interested. But he was like he looked like a washed up like 80s rocker. Like he had like gray hair with like a huge balding spot on the top, and he was like his hair was
Yeah.
down to his nipples, and he
Uh-huh.
was like, you know, he had this massive like beautiful house down in Tampa, Florida, with like inside indoor swimming pool, and like the is so decked
Yeah.
out. He had
The
a Ferrari
works.
and a
Yeah.
Lamborghini in his garage. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, what do you do for a living? And he's like, oh, I sell doorknobs to Walmart.
There you go. Right. That's it. You don't have to put a dent in the universe, man. Doorknobs for the biggest retailer in the world, right? Yeah, that kind of sums it up, right? Like here we are like racking our brain. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, it was pretty cool. So yeah, got to see Sean as well. Like just say hello, and then yeah, it was a good experience. Yep, yep. And also another thing that came out of it was like I've been at it for 15 years, and I am not social at all in terms of like social media, like putting stuff out there. Like I kind of cringe when I'm like, I don't want to be a thought leader.
Dude,
But
really? You're like an executive at two companies. It's all about brand content,
oh,
influencer.
100%. It is supposed to be. Do I do it? No, I don't, right? Like I would rather be in a corner, like working on the product and work with the engineers.
Man,
And
I was really hoping to go on Instagram tonight and like see what you're having for dinner.
right, right, because that's what you would be interested in, right? But yeah, but one thing that came out of the whole thing was like, hey, I don't mind this at all. Like, because it's just like what you are doing, right? I wouldn't mind conversations. I don't want to do this whole performance on LinkedIn and like performance on YouTube or like be on that treadmill, right? But yeah, after 15 years of doing this, it's like I do enjoy conversation. And having a podcast, like that's like a great way of meeting people. So I was like, it kind of opened my eyes. Before I was like, yeah, I'm in the industry. I kind of know influencers. I know that life. I'm all about the data. I appreciate it, but I don't think that's for me. And yeah, you're right. Like even our marketing head, she's always like, Ajoy, you got to be more active on LinkedIn. You got to be more active on Twitter. And I'm like, it's just not me, Yeah.
No,
So
I'm with you, man. I like the podcast model because it's just what I do best, just hanging out and talking.
yeah,
So,
right, exactly, right. So when did you start your company, Purotech?
so I started Curotech in 2010. And then, we've been growing ever since. We really started growing a lot. I'd say in like 2017, 2018, we kind of hit this like ramp. And especially since 2020, we've, late 2020, 2021, 2022, we had some explosive growth. We're keeping that going. It slowed down a little bit with the economics, but yeah, we're like just under 100 people. It's like, 80 and some change or something like that. Hyper specialized in Laravel and Vue as a, dev firm. So we just kind of really like focus in on those ecosystems. And, we mostly work with like SaaS companies and, like tech enabled businesses to build software products.
Do you think Laravel is like, how does it compare to Ruby? By the way, we are a Laravel shop too. Like on the VideoAmigo
Nice.
side, it's fully built Laravel.
I figured when you were telling me about your engineers, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I used to do Rails personally years and years ago. I haven't touched it in years. We don't really have many people on the team that work with it. Therefore, we don't have many like clients in that space. We are starting to expand more into like full stack JavaScript and Python.
Okay.
Especially Python, because we've been doing a lot with AI and like vector databases and data engineering, like data pipelines and stuff like that. So Python's been an expansion area for us. But in terms of like just a really good like MVC framework, I mean, Laravel's kind of like, if you look at like star history on GitHub, like Laravel just like smoked Rails.
Yeah.
And it's I think I mean, Taylor's really kind of done something special. I touched on this a lot in the episode with him. I think it was episode 30. He's really done something special that like most open source communities haven't been able to do. Like there's just this like really like loyal fan base. You know, like
Yeah.
Laravel developers love Laravel more than any other framework. Like I've never heard Node developers like love Node
No,
as much
right.
as you know, Laravel developers love Laravel. So it's kind of it's an interesting ecosystem. I think he is responsible for reviving PHP and making it you know, like a cool language again, like a, you know, a respectable language. And I think Laravel still has a, you know, a lot of you know, bright future ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I agreed. Especially like around that 2010, 2011 time, we were like, dude, PHP versus like Rails was already there, right? Like what one is more like structured versus, PHP got like a bad rap for just like spaghetti. There is potential to do more harm than good there. And people would be like, well,
Yeah, I mean,
PHP is built on
early
PHP.
WordPress, you know,
Yeah,
Joomla and like, you know,
right.
Cake PHP and all these things. Like, you
That's
know,
right.
there was
Right.
Zends, I think was like a nightmare to try to figure out.
Yeah.
Laravel has a lot of Zend under the hood, but Symphony, my bad. But you know, Zend was like Magento, and it was like you know, that Magento is built on top of Zend, and it's got like a lot of just like trying to build on the Zen framework is like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like going through a maze.
Right, right, right. And he talks about like this, he didn't explicitly say, but like there's always this inflection point, right? Like something happens, something is available, and now you can do something that you couldn't do before. So one of the things that he said was like at PHP 5.3, there were few things available, and Laravel totally took advantage of that. And that's how when it started,
Yeah,
right?
like Composer, the package
Yeah.
management. Yeah, that was like the big thing for Laravel. And yeah, what was the other thing he was talking about?
Like calling functions anonymously or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anonymous function calls. Yeah, that was the other thing.
Right.
Yeah, so there were, I think those were the two things that kind of opened up Laravel, and then, you know, a lot of other new things came along, like, you know,
Right.
traits and all these concepts of like, you know, like PHP becoming like a true object oriented language. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
that stuff
Came from
came a little
there. Yeah.
later. Yeah, because like
And that's
original
also,
PHP.
yeah, and that's also like a good exercise to do, right? Like what has happened like this year that kind of opens up everything. I think I heard the similar story with Figma. Like when they launched, that was the first time when they introduced like WebGL. That was like a new thing. And because of that, he was like, well, this changes everything. I can do design on the web. I can like, create the software Figma right on the browser, right? So yeah, companies
Yeah, yeah.
emerge when you have these kind of inflection points, so yeah,
Well,
yeah.
AI is that right now.
AI is that right now,
I
right?
mean, you know, it's fun. Like TensorFlow has been around for a long ass time, and I have a friend who's building a startup in the legal space. I don't want to say like specifically the specialty because I don't know if he would, you know, want me to share that part or not. But it's like a AI powered tool in the legal space, and like the use case he has for it is very interesting. And
Okay.
he's been doing it since like 2015 or
Gotcha.
2016. Like basically ever since TensorFlow came out, he's been
Ah,
building his own models. He's been training his own models on his data, and it's been getting progressively better and better. But like ever since OpenAI released like GPT-3 and 3.5, it got really good. Like he's like, all right, well, I don't need to train my own models anymore. I'm just going to use GPT-3 because and now GPT-4 because it's like done a lot of the heavy lifting. So now he can just use models like that and then set up like his own Pinecone database and kind of like, you know, fine tune it on top of existing models.
right.
And so like this technology's been around a long time. There's been like small hype cycles of AI over the years, but it never really caught.
Caught on like right now, right? Because
Yeah, but
this
it's because it's like because consumers can touch it and like see it
right,
now as a product. Like
exactly.
ChatGPT makes it so consumers can like see and touch it.
Right.
But I do think it's getting to a point where the maturity of AI is powerful enough that we're going to see a platform revolution. We're going to see, you know, like my company, Curotech, we were just talking about it. We're already implementing AI for a bunch of clients,
Yeah.
and we're like massively changing the way that they do business in some key ways for the clients we've implemented it for. And it's, you know, it's changing the way that they need to, you know, leverage human capital. Like they can
Yeah.
redistribute human capital to other things. You
Right.
know, things that used to take thousands of hours are taking like an hour of compute.
Exactly, right.
It's
And if you
like,
think about it, yeah, it's the same thing on our end as well, because you have all this data. At the end of the day, what do you want? Insights, right? So there is this thing that we are working on right now, which is we just call it from English to insights. So it's basically asking the question in the legal space, who is dominating the legal space on YouTube? That would require you like 20 different filters and 10 different, like, in this category, in this theme, in this conversation, and subscriber base more than 1,000. And then all those filters and UI can now just be English, right? Like you can just like say it out loud and like
and
where.
are you like, so are you taking that query and then having like AI do all those filters, or are you like doing a
No,
vector
no, actually
database?
creating the SQL and giving you the answer and charting it, right? So now you don't really need the UI with all this filters and things of that nature that will give you the results set.
So like the query is still happening. It's not like you have all this data in a vector
Correct.
database. So
Correct.
that might
That's
be the
right. That's
next
like
advancement.
that's right. This is the first step. Like, get it to the thing. I just need the answer to this. And then from there, you're right. Like it can just tell you the insights even before you ask. It's like, here are the top 20 things, 2 new trends that we are like, there's anomalies here, and like insights within certain categories. So yeah, AI has like so many applications within every industry, right? Like it removes that friction, right? Like from coming up with the question, well, now I have to query it. Sure, now the UI is the interface for the SQL, but still I got to figure out all those things. From there, I have to like synthesize the output. And now I have to put that in a chart and now look at it, ponder on it, and figure out exactly where the anomalies are or what the insight is, and then distill it. So all those like middle steps kind of goes away if you can like set this thing up correctly. So
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, changing gears. TikTok getting banned or not getting banned?
yeah, we are a little bit biased. And like today, there was news about Montana, banning TikTok starting January 2014. The bill actually passed. But what that really means is like they are banning.
I mean, what is that, like 0.01% of
You're right, like, but it
TikTok
sets a
use?
precedence, right? Like it sets a precedence there. Like, well, state did it. Someone's got to do it once. So yeah, it will be interesting to see like what happens there. We have seen like uh, there is an audience there for TikTok, but the question always comes down to like is that really an audience? There are like so many examples of like MFM is a good example. Like through an event in Austin, 600 people shows up, right? Because they're subscribers. It's long form content. You have built this audience. There are examples where TikTok influencers will throw an event and no one shows up because they thought like, wait, I have millions of views in all my TikToks. Where are these people, right? Like, so there is a difference between captive audience like of YouTube versus like TikTok. And then of course there is the whole
I
political.
actually have a story about this. So my wife is she's writing a book. I don't know if she wants me to say it or not yet, so I won't say it. But she's about to launch a book, and there's like an aspect of helping a lot of people that have a certain need. And so she just started doing all this TikTok stuff to try to start like kind of building up her audience. And she's already had a YouTube channel for years, but she started with TikTok and she's been doing content. She had one piece go mini viral that got like, in the tens of thousands of views on TikTok, and the other ones are getting like hundreds or thousands of views. And the one, so she got one person that reached out to her on TikTok and said, I want to talk to you. I need help with this. And she got like already in like the first 2 weeks or whatever, got a lead through TikTok. But then she just took all the videos that she published on TikTok and just posted them to YouTube Shorts. And I think like instantly she got 1 or 2 leads from YouTube. So it seems like YouTube gets better traction, even with the TikTok logo and the video on YouTube.
In there. Right. Yeah, that really makes you question the audience, right? Like, where are they in the world? And like, just like YouTube is like the best distribution mechanism because when you put that on YouTube, it is surfaced to people that are like, it's made for your audience. If you were in the US, like figuring out who are the watchers of your videos and who is most likely gonna watch it as well, right? It is based on all those profiles. So in that sense, it is a fantastic distribution mechanism, that they have built this moat around. So
You're saying YouTube.
yeah, with YouTube, right?
What's
right.
the count? So if you weren't building stuff on the YouTube platform and you were instead doing it on the TikTok platform, what would be your counter argument that you would say why TikTok is better?
I think like TikTok would be better for, I think like maybe the demographics, like younger demographics. Uh, from what I can tell, right, like the Gen Zs of the world are using it more. So I
You heard
would
about Miss Excel though, right?
say that again.
You heard about Miss Excel?
Missing cell,
Miss Excel.
Mystic cell.
Miss,
No.
like MISS Excel, like Microsoft Excel.
Oh yes, exactly. Yes.
Dude,
Yeah,
she's
he's like
got like
killing
a
it on TikTok,
eight
right?
eight figure business selling
Yes,
Excel and like PowerPoint courses. And
yes, 100%.
so they talked about her on MFM. I actually heard about her before. One of my other friends told me about her before she was on, before they talked about her. I don't know if she went on MFM or they were just talking about her. I don't remember. But one of
Right.
my friends told me about her like 6 months prior to that. And I was digging into her and I couldn't, like, I was like, this seems like it's blowing up. But,
Uh-huh.
and I watched the videos and it makes a lot of sense. She's like, she's a cute looking woman. Like she's got like a
Yeah.
lot of energy and, she's,
Right.
knows how to like,
That's right.
bring her
Are there
energy into
success
the.
stories on TikTok? 100%. I mean, they wouldn't be a 200 billion plus company if they weren't, right? So yeah, 100%. I think of TikTok as like a good, maybe you could get the word out there, but like, nurture your audience on the YouTube side of things, because that is more long lasting. And the TikTok is just given to you, right? Like you're not typically searching for things, even though people do search. It's just like it opens up, it's there, and then you scroll. You're not dictating what is next, right? As opposed to YouTube, you are clicking on that related videos. You are choosing what you want to watch. So yeah, in that sense, I think like TikTok has perfected that. It has figured out the laziness aspect of like I just want to be entertained. I don't want to. Don't make me
Dude, I
think.
don't think it's laziness. I think it's like they figured out like whatever, heroin dealers figured out to get you addicted to heroin. Like they did that in social media form.
Right. Somehow, like, I mean, the content is pretty darn like it's entertaining, right? Like but in the end, I don't know, like how you would like view it as like, did I waste my time or was it? Yeah, it was entertaining. It was worthwhile,
I downloaded TikTok once and like I opened it up and I guess like their algorithm says if you're a guy, then like we're just gonna show you like tits and ass like as soon as you open up
Right.
the app. So I opened
Right.
it
It
up.
has the
I
highest
scrolled.
engagement. I don't know why, but
I opened it up and I scrolled. I tried to get some business content. I eventually did. And then, I think I did it for like 30 minutes and I was like, all right, this is a waste of time. And then I deleted it.
yeah.
Now, the
Yeah,
funny thing is we are starting to put some clips from this show on TikTok to see how it does. We've been doing
yeah,
YouTube shorts and they're doing all right, I think. But maybe I'll pick your brain offline about how we can do better on YouTube.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, we're playing with YouTube first to try to get good at YouTube. And
Yeah.
then, we'll probably do to like LinkedIn or TikTok second.
Yeah, it totally depends on the brand, on the niche. Like, you have to pick your battles, right? Like, and then you get to a point where, hey, why not all, right? Right now, it's more of a political situation, right? Like with the Chinese government kind of overseeing this, like, are you really being patriotic by using TikTok, kind of a thing? Or at least that's what.
Yeah, the like these congressional hearings, they don't know what they're talking about. They bring in tech CEOs and they just like beat them up a little bit on TV and then on
Right.
C-SPAN and then it like nothing really happens. And they've done it to all the American companies. They've done it to like Bezos and they've done it to Zuckerberg and they've done it to like the Google guys and probably Apple, like Tim Cook, Steve Jobs or whatever. I don't know
Right.
who else. They definitely beat up Bill Gates pretty bad in the 80s.
Yeah.
So or maybe it was the 90s, I don't remember, but you know, so the whole idea about like, and they never do anything, like they kind of threaten but then they don't do anything. So it seems like this time it's like not, it's, you know, it's like, you know, China's like the enemy of like, you know,
Enemy.
economic enemy of America. So it seems like this time they're probably going to throw the book at them because
Yeah.
you know, because like they have to actually follow through at some point, I guess.
Yeah, I think like I have seen a change in climate. I watched when the Cambridge Analytica scandal like broke out. I was there, like I was listening to the whole Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg going to Congress and like testify, and I was like, my goodness, these people, that's not even the right question, man. Like, uh, and Mark was like amazing. He was like a little pivot, a little turn here, and I'm out of jail, right? Like I'm out of this question. I'll get back to you, Senator. And like it was so he handled every single one of them. But now I see a little bit of difference. Like now, like even with AI, right? How many times have we heard about like
Well, sorry on that last thing. So the example I hear that cracks me up, it's like the congressional hearing of Mark Zuckerberg during the Cambridge Analytica scandal is the equivalent of like when your grandma asks you how to like open up her email, like how come my email icon went away?
yeah. Oh, are you the Facebook guy? Like, could you help me with the password? Totally. Like, when I was listening to it, I was like, oh my goodness, like as much coaching and media coaching this, Mark got. Like, I wish like there was some coaching on the other end as well.
Dude, I've been talking with a bunch of friends of mine. I really want to see, like, in politics, like, we have these minimum ages. I think the minimum ages should be the maximum age. I
Yes.
want, like, 35 to 55. That's the age bracket. If you want to be in politics, you got to be in that
Right.
age range. And then after that, you retire. It's over.
Right. I hope our 80-year-old president does something about that. Yeah, you're right. Like, and sometimes it's just a knowledge gap, right? Like, and so I do see a change in climate. Like, one, I watched the TikTok hearing as well. I thought like they did better than last time around. They were kind of united in this particular front, because it's China. And then also I see the similar thing with AI, right? Like even with tech companies, they are like, no, dude, like safety comes first, like there is more concern about safety and like how does this affect humans and stuff like that. So the same thing goes with TikTok. It's just like the timing now. I feel like this is a good chance as ever that TikTok might get banned, but we'll see what gets written out there.
We shall see. Ajoy, anything you want to close on, man, before we cap off our Friday?
Yeah, no, nothing else. Check out VideoAmigo. If you are a brand or an agency and if you need YouTube help, we are the OGs on the YouTube side of things. We have a platform. And on the agency side, it's Touchstorm. This was great chatting with you. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude, we riff well. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely.
Did you clear your cash flow?
When you're dealing with analytics, you're dealing with 20 million channels. And then you have to like abide by YouTube's API process, which is like you can only show like 18 months of data. So beyond that, like, having a provision in different places so that it is it is stored but not accessible, right? And then at some point it's deleted.